One of the memorable moments in college football in 2025 was a highly ranked Florida State team playing Virginia on Friday night and the Cavaliers pulling an upset where the students rushed the field. It felt like milliseconds after the ball fell on the ground. It was such a surprise to many people because Florida State had already beaten Alabama. I thought it was going to be a close game. I predicted it, but I did not see Virginia winning. I didn't pick it that way, but I thought it would be a great game. And Virginia won it, and it led to this 11-3 season where Virginia played for the ACC championship. Tony Elliott and the Cavaliers looked like they were going to represent the ACC in the playoff for a lot of the season. And for a while, it felt like college football, and again, I love it, wasn't just about the Ohio States and the Georgias and the Alabamas of the world. And Virginia was having a great year. They ended up being just short of the ACC championship and missed the playoff, but what an unbelievable season. You're listening to the You Think You Know Sports podcast, and we're going to break down what the Cavs look like for 2026 today. You can find this podcast on Spotify and Apple Music, Amazon Music, just about anywhere that you can listen to a podcast. And we continue to add. You can find a lot more on youthinkyouKnowSports.com, including an article on the Cavaliers and the other teams in the ACC as we continue to go around the FBS. And you can also find us on social media, youthinkyouKnowSports.com. It is the letter U, not YOU, and on all of those. So Virginia last year was one of the surprises in the country. A feel-good story that everybody enjoyed. We had Chandler Morris at quarterback, who had a really, really good season and tried to get another year back. Did not end up getting that year. So now they've got to figure out who their quarterback is going to be. It looks like it's going to be Bo Perbola, who came over from Missouri. Pitt transfer Eli Holston also tried to win the job. They're still battling, but it feels like Perbola is probably going to be the guy. This is an offense last year that averaged right under 29 points per game, 41st most in the country, right under 400 yards per game in the top 50 of the country. I think the offense was good enough. The defense was also really good. Just gave up under 20 points per game, 19.8, 18th best in the country, 313 yards per game, 17th. Virginia was unbelievable on third down. 49% of third downs were converted by the Cavaliers last year. That's the 8th best in the country. They also only gave up third down conversions on 29% of opponents' attempts. Okay. So if you got into third down with Virginia, you were probably giving up a conversion on one side of the ball, or at least it was a coin flip on whether or not they'd get it. And on the other side, you had a 1 in 4 chance. So you probably were punting the football or having to come up with a play for a fourth down. So, it's going to be interesting with Perbola taking over now at quarterback. He was sacked 23 times last year. He had 11 touchdowns and 9 picks. 5 touchdowns and no picks in the first 2 games for Missouri. And then he had 6 touchdowns and 9 picks in the last 8. So the struggles down the stretch for Missouri kind of showed with Perbola's numbers as well. Now, I talked a lot about this to begin the year last year. I believe it was 6 in a row for Missouri to start the season at home. So by the time the Tigers actually started playing road games, almost the entire country had played 1 or 2. And you could see that. I think you could sense that as you got into the later part of the calendar where the schedule kind of betrayed that Missouri team. So Perbola went through all that. Holston was the starting quarterback and looked like he was going to be the unquestioned quarterback at Pittsburgh. Heinzel came in and took that job from him, and now he's transferred. So, look, I think Virginia offensively, it's very hard to replace a guy like Morris at quarterback. But I do think they did really well in the transfer portal and brought in 2 guys who are experienced and are going to give you a chance to actually have a pretty good offense without having a major drop-off here. So we'll see what ends up happening with the quarterback battle. They have 3 offensive linemen who started every single game last year. Mikel Boley, Noah Josie, and Drake Metcalf are all back on the offensive line. Listen, if you've got a new quarterback, you've got some changes with your playmakers, your skill positions. Having three guys you can count on the offensive line is a big win for Tony Elliott and this team, right? So I think that's going to be huge. Jamari Taylor had over 1,000 yards rushing last year. He's a starting running back for Virginia. He's got to be replaced. But again, Tony Elliott and the staff have given themselves options at another key position. Peyton Lewis had 290 yards at Tennessee last year. He's come in. Solomon Beebe from UAB, 338 yards, 6 touchdowns. He's now a Cavalier. Jaquel Middlebrook had 752 yards and 4 touchdowns at Middle Tennessee last year. Now he is a Cavalier, right? So they have given themselves some chances to be able to get this running game going, just like they did with the quarterback position. The wide receiver group is probably the position area, especially on offense, where you have a lot of concerns, right? It doesn't mean that it can't be good enough, but there is literally nothing proven on this roster right now. 6 of the top 7 leaders in receptions are no longer with Virginia. Deshaun Martin is the guy who had chances to, according to articles, to play at big schools. Alabama was in the mix on him, and he ended up going to Virginia after leaving Kent State because he saw that there wasn't a lot of production. There's also UCLA transfer Rico Flores, Massachusetts transfer Jaquan Gibson, freshman Dylan Cope are all going to be in the mix somehow, And then the returning receivers are Cam Courtney, Ty Lyric Coleman, Dylan Newton Short, Isaiah Robinson, Josiah Abdullah, And Tony Elliott believes that, they've got the talent there from all the interviews that I have looked at. But I don't think at this moment, and it's May 22nd, 2026, we are 99 days from the start of college football as I'm doing this podcast. I don't think we know who's going to separate themselves for the Virginia receiving group. But that is a huge question mark for this team. If you get the quarterback figured out, you get the running back figured out, you've got the offensive line figured out, you got to find some playmakers on the outside, right? And that's all you're missing. So we'll see if Virginia is able to identify who that person is on this offense. Defensively, they bring back 5 guys. They also brought in some key transfers. So they've got Fisher Comack back, Jason Hammond. Both of those guys are defensive linemen. Zion Wilson has come in from East Carolina as well. That it sounds like the defensive line is going to be in good shape. You've also got Anthony Britton there. Cam Robinson is back at linebacker. You've got Ethan Minter and Donovan Platt in the defensive backfield. There are 8 new defensive backs on this roster, according to an article I was reading on the Cavs from ESPN. One of those guys is Brandon Hillman from Michigan, who will come in and is probably the biggest name that they've added out of the transfer portal in the defensive secondary. So, look, Virginia was good enough on defense last year. Can they be good enough again? I think that's the question. If you look at this schedule, they play 3 of their first 4 games at home. The one road game is a neutral site game. It's just, in Brazil against North Carolina State. That is in a week 0 matchup. That is a game that is 99 days from today as I'm doing this podcast. Look, I don't love, and I talked about this on the NC State podcast as well, here on the You Think You Know Sports podcast, that I don't love non-conference games, right? So these 2 teams play in the same conference, obviously, and they're playing a non-conference game just like they did last year. I don't love that, but I do think it'll be a fun game in Brazil, so we'll see what happens. But, all of their first 4 games, they don't go on the road in their first 4 games to play at an opponent's place, right? I mean, they travel a long ways to go to Brazil, but they're not dealing with a road environment. Norfolk State is week 2, West Virginia is week 3, Delaware is week 4, okay? They go to Florida State on October 3rd. And we started the podcast talking about that moment last year where Virginia pulled the upset. You know that Mike Norvell and a new look Seminoles team, who we've broken down on this podcast, is going to be ready to chomping at the bit to get Virginia, I would think. I mean, absolutely ready after that game kind of derailed their season a little bit. Syracuse comes to Virginia October the 10th. Virginia's got to go to SMU October 17th. Kevin Jennings is back. SMU expects to be competing for the ACC title under Rhett Lashley. They've only lost 2 conference games the last 3 years combined. So that will be a tough one. The weekend of October 24th, we get the Duke Virginia game, a rematch of the ACC championship game. It would be great if that game meant something as a rematch of the title game. I think both of those teams have a lot of questions. Virginia goes to Wake Forest on Halloween. They host California 2 weeks later after a bye. They also get North Carolina in a game at Virginia on November 21st. And they end the year at rival Virginia Tech on Thanksgiving weekend, November 28th. And look, I think by then, as I keep saying, I don't know that you want to deal with Virginia Tech toward the end of the year. They have a lot of guys back. It's going to take a little bit of time for James Franklin to get everything the way he wants it to be. But I think that's going to be a team that gets better throughout the season under a first-year head coach. With Ethan Grunkmeyer coming over, got some playing time last year at Penn State, but now is going to kind of be the guy, it feels like, for that Virginia Tech team. So, look, I think Virginia can be right in the mix in an ACC that really, if you were tiering the ACC, I think Miami is clearly at the top. I think SMU is right there behind them. And then I think you have a lot of really good teams. I mean, I think Louisville is a team that people are going to circle. I think with C.J. Bailey back, a lot of people are going to like NC State to have a really good season. Look, there's a lot. You could circle a bunch of teams once you get past that first 2 or 3 and say, okay, they're going to be really good. I don't know exactly where Virginia falls in that. I am very worried about the wide receiver group. I do think they did well at quarterback to bring in some experienced guys. I don't know that they're going to – I think there's still going to be a fall off there. I think defensively, it's going to be really hard to be that good on third downs again. We'll see if Tony Elliott's able to pull that off. And they've got to figure out who their running back's going to be. So a lot of questions here in May, but there are some pieces for the Cavaliers as they get ready to try to get back to the ACC championship game again and have another 10 or 11 win season, which they've never done. So, look, guys, you're listening to the You Think You Know Sports podcast. You can find a lot more on my website. There will be a post up very soon about Virginia with a lot more information on this team for the upcoming season. You can also find my link tree on my TikTok profile, where you can find all of the different places that you can listen or find me on all the various social medias out there. So I appreciate all of you for listening, and hope you'll come back to listen to the next podcast, which will be on Virginia Tech. Appreciate you guys.